What we've got here is we've got a pump that's we've taken out of a well. We've let it soak in our pump wash solution to kind of break down any scaling. We do have different types of solution for different, more excessive scaling. We got a little bit stronger solution, but this works good to take care of just a little bit of the dirt and grime and stuff that gets on the pump in the well. Once we get it taken out of our pump bath, what we want to do is come over to our vise. Want to make sure we've got some rubber coated jaws. That's very important. And well, first thing we want to do is put our head itself in the vise. Want to make sure that the head's in the vise and we're tightening on it to have that secured position. If we tighten anywhere on our case, and what we'll end up doing is causing the pump itself to spin, and could cause damage to the actuator rod and some different parts in there, and then you're not going to be able to get the pump itself actually out of the casing. So once we've got our pump head secured in our vise, we'll take our bottom check valve wrench, remove our bottom check valve from the pump. So once we've had it soaking for a little while, it kind of loosens up some of the dry stuff and makes everything a little bit easier to come apart. So we've got our bottom check valve taken off. We can let some of the excess water come out. We do have another video with how to disassemble the shuttle and the seat itself off of the bottom check valve, just in case there was any damage there. But everything looks good on it. So we've got our bottom check valve off. We'll take our pump removal tool and screw it onto the end of the discharge tube. From there, we'll take our pump out of the vise and just use a rubber mat or something to tap the casing in it. It should come off using the discharge removal tool. From there, we can put our pump up into our vise or stand that we have. We'll be able to kind of check everything from that point. The main things we're looking for is to make sure nothing's damaged, make sure everything looks right. The actuator rod's not bent. To check the spring, make sure it's not broke anywhere, and we're not missing any pieces. So once we've got our exhaust valve checked, make sure it's where it needs to be. We'll take our quick connect up here and apply some air to it. From here, as long as everything's sealing right, we shouldn't see any air bubbles from our soaking or hear any air coming through, and we'll be able to simulate the rocker moving. Make sure we have air coming through. There's no blockages or anything, but make sure it's also sealing when it's supposed to, coming back down. So from that point, we'll take it and actually adjust our magnets to make sure that our float is floating correctly. The one thing to be aware of whenever we are repairing a pump is to when we go over to check it in our float, we want to make sure our buoyancy is floating at our buoyancy line here. If there has been any scaling build up on the float itself, and it's adjusted that line, we may need to remark our line where it's floating, free floating, and then mark our other lines accordingly, and we have procedures for that. And again, want to make sure that it's free floating at our buoyancy line. As long as that's right, we can set our magnets accordingly and know that they're being set right. So we're going to start with our rocker in the front down, simulating there's no water in the pump. We're going to simulate water rising in the pump and causing the air itself to kick on. So as we move the float down, what we're looking for is it to trip up at our top line on our float. And obviously it's wrong on this float, so what we want to do is pull our rockers back down and use our front magnet, or our back magnet to adjust where we're tripping on our top line. So what we're doing is we want to adjust the magnet that's holding our rocker up and either tighten or loosen it depending on the strength. What we had before is we're seeing that when we lower the float down, it's actually a lot later than it needs to be. So what we're going to want to do is loosen our magnet back here to where it's allowing that rocker to trip earlier, like you see there. So to drop it in again, it should trip on our, once the water hits our top line, we should see that trip point. And then the same concept for our bottom line. As we're raising it up, we should be able to look down and see if it trips where it needs to be. And if it's a little bit tight, we're going to loosen our front magnet to allow it to trip sooner. Or if it's tripping too soon, we can tighten it to allow it to trip later. And this one here, it seems to be about right, so we're just going to leave it like it is and put our pump back into our casing. Once we've finished doing our float test on our pump, what we want to do is put our pump back into our casing. We'll take a little bit of grease and apply it onto our O-ring on the head of our pump, and we also want to make sure that we apply some grease onto the top of our casing as well, just to make sure that there's no grime or anything blocking the O-rings as it's going in and causing it to not seal correctly. So we'll take our pump, drop it into our casing, just apply a little bit of pressure and it should pop right in. From there we'll take our pump, turn it upside down, and the same process with our bottom check valve. Apply some grease onto our O-ring on the bottom check valve, and then also apply some grease inside the casing as well to make sure that we're not damaging our O-rings as we're going in with it. So we'll take our bottom check valve and start to screw into our pump, and you'll be able to feel once it engages with the discharge tube. From there, once you've got a couple threads, you take your pump and again, we want to make sure that we lock our head into the vise to either remove or put our bottom check valve back on. So from there, like I said, we can give it a few more turns, and then we'll take our bottom check valve wrench and tighten it on the rest of the way. There's no need to get it super tight. Once the O-ring engages, it's made the seal, so we'll just run it up till it touches the casing, and we're ready to start our field test.